5 occult things that I learned as a corporate recruiter and how you could get your dream job faster by using these as a cheat code or cheat sheet. Do you think good merit itself is enough to succeed in the corporate or business world? If you observe carefully, you'll notice that most successful people around you who are really successful, uber successful, in business, let's say if they're self-employed or even in a corporate job, they are not the smartest. No offense. They're not the brightest. Again, no offense. So if brightness is not the criteria to be successful and in this case to be hired, then what is? Hiring or human resources is not much different than this statistic of success that goes anywhere else. Success in getting hired is is also the same way. Usually the brightest um, do not get selected because of a few reasons that I'm going to discuss today. And if you are amongst those bright people, and if you have a dream job in mind, then how you could tone down your brightness to get that dream job. Okay, so let's begin. The first step is understanding the fact that you are required to play a role. Okay, open any job description that you've ever read or that you've ever seen online, and it will say that this is for a role of a sales manager. This is for a role of a sales executive or a HR rep. What is this? What are they saying by this is for a role? Because they already have an act going, and you are supposed to play along with that act and just play a role which is already designed for their act. They don't want a Sam or a Frank. They want their character for their business or for their play in this sense. Even if you break down the word business, it's nothing but busyness. It's an act of saying busy. It's also in a way a play, right? So you're expected to play a role. Understand this is a very important fact. Your individuality, your personality, your hobbies, you might be good at other 100 things, but if you do not understand that you have to play a role, and if you bring all those 100 things at work, then it's just not going to happen. Okay, they are not going to see you as a successful candidate because you haven't fit the role. Not just in corporate, even in your daily life, you're expected to play a role of a son, a daughter, a parent, a customer. So understand this, that life is built around playing roles and characters. And the faster you adapt to a certain character, or the faster you are able to transition into a certain character throughout your day, the, the more successful you will become. When you exactly know what lines are expected out of your mouth, when you exactly know which lines to avoid, and you know who you're playing with, what your playing field is, everything. Every organization that I've ever worked has an unspoken work culture, a social, like a few social norms that are required to be successful within that organization. Usually it takes an employee 3 to 6 to 12 months to understand these norms and knickknacks. But if you are, if you get smart and if you understand these norms and these knickknacks beforehand, before getting hired, especially if it's your dream job, then that's going to put you on an express pathway right from that first email that you get from the HR. Or even actually, it will boil it down to preparing a resume that tailor fits their requirement. Imagine you went to Japan without knowing anything about Japan, and you were riding a subway and you were talking loudly on the phone or listening to some music without headphones, and also eating at the same time, which is totally frowned upon. And it's frowned upon in Japan, but it might be totally okay in the country that you live in, right? In the city that you live in. So you didn't think about it. However, that will kind of ostracize you from having a good experience with the local people. Similarly, imagine you walking into a company without knowing anything about it, as opposed to walking into that company knowing exactly what you're expected to do. That will change everything. And how would you find these things out? Is the step two and step three. We'll get into that. So knowing this company this way, from inside out, not from outside in, will really give you an insight of the role that you're expected to play. And this is something that you have to keep at the back of your mind all the time, and you have to remind yourself all the time that you're expected to play a role. You're not paid for your opinions. You're not paid for your um, hobbies that you might be able to do otherwise. No, you're paid to do the you're paid to play the role that they expect you to play. And that just does not mean getting the work done. That also means saying the correct lines, dressing a certain way, and bowing down to certain people, stroking a few people's ego, maintaining company's image, so on and so forth. And there could be so many intricacies, especially to stroking people's ego. You would not believe how far that would take you when you know whose ego you need to be you need to be stroking to get that promotion. You might be a great person, okay, and you might have all good intentions at heart, but if you do not stroke a certain person's ego, which is the case in most promotions or hirings, you will not get hired, because it's still a human behind that desk that's going to hire you. The day AI starts recruiting, probably meritocracy will be higher, and maybe you would not need to do all these things. But as of now, it's still people. So know these things beforehand and do a bit of research on people that you're going to work with. And that's step number two. How do you find out this information? The next obvious question is going to be, how do you acquire this information? So primarily, to acquire this type of information, you can use recruitment portals itself that are giving you the jobs, like that you are finding the jobs from. Just go to the company side of this portal, like Glassdoor, Indeed, ZipRecruiter. I don't know which ones you use. Indeed also has it. I mean, LinkedIn also has it. So just go on the company side and the organization side of the page and read the reviews of people who have left good reviews, left bad reviews, left moderate reviews, and try to get a feel of the general culture and the general environment of the company. You might find some disheartening reviews or discouraging reviews, but don't take them for the face value of them. Don't take every word as a fact that is written in the reviews, because there's always another side that needs to be heard. But at least you can get a faint picture of what you might be expected to do and what not to do as per the employees that have given the bad review, and what to do based on the employees that have given the good review. This will, imagine knowing, and if someone has mentioned someone's name up there, some manager's name, a team's name, a department's name, that's going to be a gold mine. Then you exactly know who your um, who the super boss is that you need to be careful from, or who the sour one is, for the lack of a better term, to be um, hands away from. Do not get absorbed by these reviews. It might spoil your image, or it might make you feel a bit negative going into the company, but it will give you a reality check. Okay, it will not just put you in a happy, optimized state of mind, in which you look at everything as a bonus or as a plus, but it will paint a real picture of the world, that a job that you're going to be working at, and then it will cause you less disappointment in the long run, and you will exactly know what to expect when you start working. Okay, so these are some of this is a way you can primarily do research. Now, this information might not be enough, okay? And let's say you didn't find any information on ZipRecruiter, or which is very hard to believe these days, because most if you're finding a job posted on ZipRecruiter, it is very likely you'll find a review for the company as well. Any recruitment website that I'm talking about. So try to a point B in the second option is try to make friends with the employees that work at that company. Try to meet up with them after work, at a coffee shop, at a lunch house that they meet at, and just try to bump into them and try to strike an organic relationship, and casually talking to them and say, hey, I'm kind of looking for this and that. And I don't know, you can develop your own script. I'm just here to throw some ideas that real recruiters use and headhunters use to find candidates, which I've done very often, right? You just walk into someone, you kind of spy on them, not really, but you find out where they eat, you find out where they have their coffee, you find out where they go to play golf, and then you just happen to be there, and then happen to be their friend, and happen to be their new best friend, and send them a couple of gifts here and there, and then discreetly find out what you supposed to know. This is totally legal. There's nothing unethical about this. So do that. Make friends with people who you know, the people who are in the team that you are going to be hired. Now, how you could do that? Just call the company. Let's say your dream job is at Samsung cell phones. You can easily go online, try to find a phone number and call the main line and say, hey, can I get transferred to the cell phone, I don't know, engineering department which designs the keyboards or the motherboards, and then see who is the sales manager there, and say, oh, it's Mr. Smith, the sales manager. I spoke to him last time. Oh, it's not Mr. Smith. It's Mr. Dan this time. Oh, I see. So how long has he been there? I think Mr. Smith was here like 5 years ago, or since 5 years. And you say, oh, no, Mr. Dan has been here for the last 10 years. So you now know Mr. Dan has been there for the last 10 years, and then say, oh, I think I've spoken to Mr. Dan. I think it's not Steve. I think it was Dan, but I don't know. What's the best way to get in touch with him? And can I meet him up today at the office if I wanted to? I'm just a client that uh, we dealt with a long time ago, and I just want to connect with him again. There you go, and maybe hopefully you'll find out some information. You'll get his cell phone number, and you can take the conversation from there. So there are many ways to finding insider information and finding out some real background data to get hired faster. Okay. Um, let's say you couldn't do any of these, right? So if you couldn't find out information organically, you can also do some still ethical but a bit inorganic things, such as you can use a VoIP caller, which doesn't have a number, like a callback number. You don't see a phone number when you call. Um, or you can use a public phone, and then you can pretend to be a buyer and say, hey, I want to buy these many things. Or I used to be a client, and maybe use a name, and try to get the information that you are looking for. Okay, this is what headhunters do day in, day out. This is what lead generation is. If you've heard anyone who works in lead generation, like premium lead generation, this is what premium lead generation is cold calling most of the day, pretending to be someone else. Okay? A little bit of lying, yeah, what is a lie, you know? So if you want data, that's what you got to do. Okay. Number 4 is differentiate yourself and the role that you're required to play. Okay, so once you know what you are required to do from all this research, okay, it's very hard to handheld or handhold someone to get the exact data that you're looking for, because your situation might be so different than someone else's situation that to give an exact way to approach this is very hard. But I'm just giving you a general outline of what are the possibilities that you can work with. Okay, so once you get the primary data from your internet research, once you then get your secondary data from making the phone calls and trying to bump into people um, at coffee shops or at their lunch places, or trying to be pretending to be a customer, or actually be a customer if they're selling consumer products. Okay, once you have that information, then you take it and apply it to, like, sketch a general outline of the role that you think that you'll be expected to play by talking to the employees and the managers and finding the data out. And then try to put your own flavor on it. Differentiate that role with your own twist on it. Okay? Again, don't bring your whole personal self to work. You have to play a role, always keep that in mind, but put your own flavor on it. Okay, that will help you immensely. Acting itself will help you immensely in life. If you want to know how to become a better actor in everyday life, watch my video up here or up here somewhere or down here somewhere. I'll link it. But acting itself is really important in everyday life. And knowing when to switch characters is the most important thing that you will know and do in your corporate and personal life, and that will improve your chances of success immensely. Okay, so sketch out a role that you're expected to play. Imagine in your mind when you go to sleep at night, when you have some free time, when you're preparing to get into the company, sketch out a role in your mind that you're expected to play of an ideal employee. It could end up with a character such as a character like Dwight from The Office, if Michael is the boss. Or it could end up with a character like, what's that character from Suits? If Harvey Specter is the boss. So it really depends what kind of situation you're in and what kind of character you're expected to play. And then sketch out that character in your mind and put your own twist on it. See how best you could give your own spice to that character. Talk to yourself in front of a mirror, giving a sales pitch with that company's product, assuming that that person is your boss and the colleagues that you met at coffee shop or at the lunch shop are your colleagues sitting beside you. How would you do that pitch? If you start with all these things, your possibilities of getting hired will be exponentially higher as compared to just another Tom, Dick, and Harry going into that interview room without any research or even responding to the HR's email without any research. If you do this, you will be also, like, your chances of failure would also reduce drastically, and it will also save you from the heartbreak of rejections and not getting your dream job because you said something stupid. How many times have you noticed that you ruined something because you said one inappropriate line? You thought that was the smartest thing to say, and maybe it was the right thing to say, but it damaged your situation in the long run. Like maybe it damaged you financially or socially, in somehow, maybe in a relationship. So knowing which character you're supposed to play and which lines are expected out of your mouth, if you just know this from the beginning, it will help you immensely. And then when you leave work, the reason that you need to practice in front of the camera, in front of a mirror or a camera, is to see and to develop the skill of switching characters, switching from a mom to a sales manager, switching from a dad to a carpenter, switching from a driver to then a caregiver. How well you switch these characters will define your success in that particular field. If you have two jobs, let's say you're driving an Uber on the side, and then you're a nurse at a hospital. If you bring the Uber mentality to your nurse work and your nurse character while driving Uber, which can very easily happen. People never pay attention to these things. It very easily happens. So drawing the line in your mind, it's called compartmentalization, which is used by our education system, our government extensively to divide us and to create those imaginary lines in our brains. But we can use it for helping us, to make us better, okay, to improve us. So create that compartmentalization factor in your brain knowingly, that where to stop being the nurse and when to switch to the Uber driver, knowingly, mentally and physically. Similarly, goes with being a dad to being a sales manager. Don't be a dad at being like when you're expected to be a sales manager. Even though you are a dad, try to avoid being in that character. And the more you realize this, the faster you will get hired at your dream job. So, step number 4 was differentiate your style and understand that it's an act. Imagine that act. Imagine the ideal character that you're supposed to play, and then put your own twist on it. Try doing this. Step number 5, just like step number 1, was understanding that you're expected to play a role. Step number 5 is also a bit of realization that everything is fair in love and war. And if you really want to succeed in the corporate life, you have to treat it as war. Okay? If you don't, the next in line guy will, knowingly or unknowingly. So might as well you do it knowingly with all the effort. You don't have to be destructive towards others or yourself, since it's a war. And war doesn't mean that you're playing heavy metal music and riding in front of a junk car like in Mad Max. Doesn't mean that. It means you're at war mentally. If you are not, if you're someone who likes peace, who doesn't want to think about getting ahead of someone all the time, who doesn't want to get a one up on someone all the time, then maybe design your own path. But if you want corporate success, if you want to become a part of an organization and achieve success in that organization, then you will have to treat it as war. You will have to do some slimy things that might question your understanding of ethics and morality. It will. If you don't, someone else will, and he's going to be, or he or she's going to be, the next promoted or the next hire. So look at it as a war. Look at it as a fight. Look at it as a mission. If you look at it as just a job, which you apply, and then just because you got whatever 80, 90% or 3.94, 4.2 GPA on your MBA, you're going to get that call. No. Someone with a 3.5 or a 3.2 already has met the sales manager at the cafe and exchanged business cards or exchanged Instagram accounts if it's a girl, if it's the opposite sex. I mean, who knows? Everything is fair in love and war. And you have to know that in recruitment, at the end, it's the decision of an individual which will hire or fire or pass on someone, promote someone. So there are many factors that influence people's decisions. And if you are not willing to play in the mud, someone else is ready, actually, it's already waiting with their clothes off. So understand this. Be a bit bad. Okay? Don't treat everything, don't try to, first of all, don't try to see everything as fair, that something has to be fair for you. The world is not fair. Look around you. Everyone's not born with the same money, same physique, same mentality. Everything's different. Everyone is on their own playing field. And if you start comparing fairness, you will just be stuck in that endless loop. So stop thinking of if it's fair for me or if it's fair to do. Just think about if it's necessary to do to what you want. If it's necessary to achieve your dream job, is it necessary? And if you do not do it, if you give out to your uh, fairness, would you be able to live with it? Would you be okay with not having that dream job, believing that you did something fair? If yes, then of course take the fairness route. But if you're not someone who will be happy doing that, if you think that you will never be able to forgive yourself, or it will always haunt you that you didn't accomplish what you were supposed to accomplish, then look at everything as war. Do everything possible, of course, within the the limitations of law and general code of ethics when it comes to business, but go a bit outside the box. Nothing that I've said is illegal. Step outside the box. Just don't apply to jobs online. Just don't send in your resumes because we receive thousands of them. Okay? And you might have a terrible resume with hundreds of spelling mistakes. But if you've met me at the coffee shop and if you've bought me a coffee or a shawarma, and then we've gone on a walk, and if you are a, God forbid, if you're an attractive person of the opposite sex, that's game over, right? Doesn't matter how many other candidates are in line. So try to do some of those things too. Okay? If you don't, someone else will, and that someone else will definitely be underqualified than you. That's why they want to do those things. So why not the good people do it and get the job anyways? So those were my 5 steps, my 5 occult steps that no recruiter would talk about usually. But that's the truth of the matter. If you want to get hired, follow these 5 steps. If you have any questions, comment down below. Follow this channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.